as Logan's ongoing battle against the Adamantine intensifies. He'll be forced to deal with more than one ghost from his dark past. What'll happen next? Well, let's hop into the pages of Wolverine issue number 8, a 60-page giant celebrating 400 issues of Wolverine. What'll happen next? Well, let's hop on in together and find out, shall we? So then, picking up directly from where the last issue left off, Wolverine was in the center of the Earth duking it out with Romulus, an ancient foe from ancient Rome who is back and being empowered by the Adamantine, an ancient primal metallic force tied to the Age of Heroes that just so happens to see the adamantium that laces the bones of Wolverine as a horrible abomination and affront to its very being. So yeah, a lot has been going on if you couldn't tell. Poor Wolverine fights valiantly, but he ends up getting the crap knocked out of him by Romulus, who takes this opportunity to go on one of those oh-so-classic villainous monologues, saying that with the Adamantine, he will reshape the world into something more glorious and primal, where only bestial beings like himself and Wolverine could ever hope to thrive. Oh geez, survival of the fittest, you don't say. Apocalypse called he wants his overall gimmick back. Now, so far, Logan has managed to resist turning into a golden-eyed zombie like all those other adamantium-using villains upstairs. But when Romulus threatens to turn Wolverine's beloved clone daughter Laura into one of his zombie horde, Wolvie finally decides he's had enough and stabs Romulus in the frickin' mouth, and honestly, it's pretty damn gory and ultimately really effective too. This, I guess, also goes to prove a theory too I've been having, and that is you can't possibly be metal everywhere, right? Shockingly too, this ends up ending the fight as the Adamantine is absolutely pissed at Romulus's failure. In fact, this ancient elemental force takes this opportunity to appear to Wolverine and say that maybe it misjudged him. After all, the Adamantine thought that Wolverine was no better than a beast, laced with a false metal, but now that it seems, well, the metal is fake, the spirit inside the man is very true. And hey, if the Adamantine was wrong about Wolverine, imagine what else it could possibly be wrong about. Oh, don't get it twisted, this thing is still very much evil, but it decides to go on a little walkabout planet Earth to learn about the modern era and what makes it tick before it can ultimately burn it all to the ground. This also means the fight is over. Even though the Adamantine probably could have easily killed Wolverine, it chooses not to. Logan reunites with Laura and Nightcrawler, and they pat each other on the back for a job well done, even though they know full well this mission is far from over, as the Adamantine will no doubt pop up again. Why everyone even goes out of their way to give Leonard the Wendigo some kudos is too. The kid has come a long way in managing to rein in its bestial murderous tendencies. And that's all thanks to Wolverine. And if you're thinking to yourself, wow, this really feels like an ending, doesn't it? Well, it is, but it's also a special 400th issue, and because of that, the book just clumsily ends up starting another story and hoping you don't notice. Wolverine wakes up in a dank metal room, him and Leonard apparently having been drugged last night at the motel they were staying at, and if these drugs can work on someone like Wolverine with his amazing healing factor, then the perpetrator must really know what he's doing, and in fact he does, as it's revealed that the mastermind behind this kidnapping is none other than Arcade, who in his infinite wisdom has decided to make Wolverine the star of his next murder game. One with a very unique twist. You see, Leonard the Wendigo has been strapped to an adamantium machine, fed drugs to make him hungry, and tortured, in hopes that he'll eventually give in to his own animal bloodlust, go nuts, and murder an audience filled with Arcade's innocent hostages. Wolverine has 5 minutes to free him, but to get there he's going to have to make it through an emotionally torturous funhouse referencing terrible moments from Logan's long and sad history. It's like a Saw version of that old TV show, This Is Your Life. In fact, hey, what is the title of this story? Oh, This Is Your Life. Wow, there's wearing your references on your sleeves and then there's wearing them on your forehead. First up is an escape room based on Wolverine's time in Weapon X, complete with a robotic Dr. Cornelius that manages to get under Wolverine's skin just enough for him to unleash a good old-fashioned berserker barrage. Of course, Wolverine can't stay here all day, he's on a time limit, and worse still, Leonard the Wendigo is wired for sound, meaning that everything our hero does and says will end up affecting his young ward. After that, Wolverine ends up walking walking into an old Canadian cabin where he ends up finding a robotic version of his first love, Silver Fox. Well, one of his first loves, one of his longer tenured first loves, depending on how you count it. Again, Wolverine's had a long, multiply retconned history. The gimmick here is that the robot even smells like Silver Fox, and Logan wants to embrace the thing, but he knows full well if he does, it will explode on him. So, no time for love, Dr. Jones. We gotta get moving on to the third and final escape room. And why is it always 3? Here, Wolverine comes face to face with a robot version of Jean Grey getting harassed by 3 distorted Cyclopses. Luckily, in this scenario, Wolverine is proud to loudly say that Arcade got his information all wrong on this one. Jean's a good friend, and Logan and Cyclops managed to put their differences aside a long time ago. Hell, depending on some of the implications in Krakoa, they were doing a lot more than that, but I digress. By the time Logan finally manages to reach Leonard, he has unfortunately succumbed to bloodlust and broken free. Logan swoops on in to defend the hostages, but at the same time, he fears what he might have to do to stop the Wendigo's rampage, so instead of fighting, he opts to do something very un-Wolverine. Basically, Logan bets on the idea that Leonard's humanity is actually a lot closer to the surface than Arcade ever gave him credit for, and because of that, he allows the Wendigo to freely beat on him for a bit. Which, wouldn't you know, it ends up absolutely working like a charm. Not only does Leonard fight back his own darker instincts, but he also does the whole Planet of the Apes no thing, officially making it the first non-Wendigo related word he's actually said. Now, Arcade, ever the sore loser, doesn't let something like this set him back. Instead, he decides to trap Wolverine inside a glass dome laced with adamantium that also just so happens to be filling with acid powerful enough to kill Wolverine before his healing factor can catch up. Yes, Arcade just so happened to have that stuff. Don't ask how he had it, he just did. Though a fatal flaw in Arcade's backup plan quickly gets shown when we come to the realization that even he didn't assume he would be dealing with 2 threats here and not just 1. The Wendigo, now back in control of his own actions, breaks through Arcade's own glass window. Yes, he didn't lace that stuff with adamantium, that would be too expensive. Before taking a bite out of the Game Master's shoulder and eventually saving Wolverine from the glass dome. Unfortunately, all of that super acid ends up getting on him, and well, the Wendigo doesn't exactly have a healing factor, does he? And if you're like me, I know what you're thinking out there. Wow, they actually let a kid die to save Wolverine's life. I bet that's really gonna mess him up, this type of self-sacrifice. Well, don't worry, the Wendigo died, but Leonard managed to live again. Reborn in his human form thanks to the Northern gods in charge of the Wendigo curse. Apparently, they have been watching over him this whole time and felt the kid could use a second kick at the can. Well, isn't that nice of them? And really damn convenient, too. Now that Leonard is back in his human form, Logan decides to take him back home to his mother, who apparently had tried really hard to get him back from that group home he ran away from, but she could just never seem to find him again. Wolverine holds no ill will towards this lady. As he puts it, she very clearly has a past, and I mean, who's he to judge? Mother and son even invite Wolverine in for dinner to thank him for reuniting them, though it's admittedly a bittersweet moment for Logan, who in his internal monologue says, "Of all the old wounds he has spent his incredibly long life dealing with, none is more raw and sensitive than the wound he feels about his own mother, who called him a freak and a monster and an animal before taking her own life." Which, I mean, yeah, I guess in fairness, that would hurt, and Wolverine doesn't bring it up all that much, so I guess it really is a sore subject for him. But why are they bringing this all up now, you might be wondering? Well, once Wolverine takes his leave from Leonard and his mother, he returns to his dingy motel room only to find a letter waiting for him. One that just so happens to be written in very old-timey English and sent by someone claiming to be Wolverine's mother, alive and well. How exactly did she manage to cheat death? How on earth is she still alive now? Well, to find the answer to this and other questions, I guess we'll have to check back next time. And so that was Wolverine issue number 8, everybody, and if you couldn't tell, I thought this was a mostly passable but still ultimately pretty paint-by-numbers little Wolverine story, which I guess should probably be kinda damning, as this is a big special 400th issue 60-page giant that feels like it could have been, any Wolverine story ever told. It also pretty clumsily tries to wrap up the story from the previous arc before jumping headlong into the actual meat and potatoes of this big special 400th issue. There's also another Daniel Way samurai story involved in this one too, but it's not connected to the Adamantine or Wolverine's mother, so I didn't even bother reading it. Speaking of Wolverine's mother, normally I would have an issue with bringing back characters who have been dead for so long, especially characters who have really had no major impact in the lives of characters characters outside their origins, but this is just such an insane pull. Oh yeah, Wolverine's mother might very well be alive and also immortal. Okay, you know what? I'm gonna bite. That is so crazy and so out of left field, I guess I have no choice but to read issue 9. Likewise, Leonard's story as the Wendigo was fine. It hit all the right marks. But boy, did they end up resolving it and writing him off pretty quickly. I assumed that he was going to be sticking around for the long haul, and that this new redeemed Wendigo was going to be a bigger universe-wide thing moving forward, but no, I guess not. His story had a beginning, a middle, and an end. As far as the other stuff goes, it's fine, perfectly enjoyable. I had a good enough time reading it, not enough that I'm going to rant and rave about how great it was. And I don't even know if the story was good enough to justify being part of this 60-page giant, but ultimately at the end of the day, I would give this one a 7 out of 10. Perfectly okay, like the rest of this book has been perfectly okay.
Hey there everyone, it's your old pal Cape Joel again, thanking you so much for watching to the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, why not check out my Amazon link down in the description. Yes, that's right, the Cape Joel channel officially has its own Amazon storefront now. You can pick up a comic or anything else for that matter, and if you did, you'd really be helping me in the channel. So with that out of the way everyone, I will see you again next time. Bye-bye.